Guys, one of the perks of living in China is that certain movies do come out here earlier than the rest of the world, and Avengers Endgame is one of them. So, here is my no spoiler review of Avengers Endgame. I mean, this review is called Should You Watch Whatever. So, should you watch Endgame? Obviously, you should, especially if you've seen any of the previous Marvel movies or the Avengers movies. You should definitely watch Endgame. I mean, that's not an issue, right, guys? So we're just gonna skip over whether you should or should not. You definitely should. Everyone should, and everyone will. And this movie will make tons of money. What this movie actually is, without spoiling anything, is a trip down memory lane for 3 hours. Basically, we get to reminisce and reflect on the 10 years that is the Infinity Saga. I personally really liked this choice in the story. I think it was a nice send-off for the Avengers, or the original Avengers, and I think it was very fitting the way they tied it together with the actual story, and it made sense more or less. Anytime you have this kind of concept, the logic is going to be thrown out the window a little bit. But I think they told a well-crafted story while at the same time letting the audience reflect on the Infinity Saga and spend the last few hours with their favorite Avengers. What I also liked about this movie is that it gave all of the most of the Avengers their character arc. Like, we know what every character's emotional arc should be, and their emotional arc has sustained this series for 10 years. And this movie, we get to see a lot of that character arc come to an end. I mean, not everyone gets their emotional arcs, right? But the important characters, or the main Avengers, do. And that's a nice way to send them off, because they aren't coming back. Not that they're all dead. I'm not going to tell you, obviously, people are going to die in this war, but I'm not going to say who. You guys can kind of figure it out. Dead or not, I think since a lot of these characters are not going to be returning in the next saga, it was nice to give them the emotional closure that has propelled these characters for the last 10 years, and that has made us so invested in them from an audience perspective. And it's nice to see them get their rewards emotionally. Going back to the story and how it serves many purposes other than telling a story, I think, if you look at it objectively, it is overly simple. It's complicated in its execution, but it's simple in its premise and concept. And this oversimplification, I think it is warranted. But the problem with this overly simple story is that the antagonists are all pretty passive. Like, there's not this big overarching plot, that they need to stop. And that was the last movie. In this movie, the protagonists, our Avengers, are very active, and they have a very clear plan on how to reverse Thanos's finger snapping magic from the first movie. I mean, for a long time, you're just watching the Avengers go about their thing, doing whatever they want to do, and then there's not a lot of people there to stop them, right? So there's actually, because the movie's 3 hours, so I think for about 2 hours and a bit, these Avengers don't come across any sort of major obstacle or barrier or antagonist. So even though the movie is exciting in the end and it's full of epic combat and conflict, for most of the movie it's actually pretty chill. It's actually pretty smooth sailing. So I mean, it had to be like that in order for the audience to really relax and enjoy this time, instead of always worrying about, like, are they gonna be able to do this? Are they gonna be able to do this? So I get that. But having said that, Thanos is still great. I loved watching him in this movie. The last movie, Infinity Wars, I was really surprised with the way Thanos was philosophizing and talking about, the classic "I want to save the world by destroying the world" type of logic. He was much more of a philosopher than a fighter in the previous movie, and this movie we get to see the other side. We get to see him fight. We get to see him fight to his full potential, and it's very satisfying. Like, I loved it when Thanos, just was kicking some ass. Like, that was something that I really kind of missed in the first movie, because the first movie was more about, you know, his army coming to Earth and then, you know, having this big war. And this movie, you know, it's the scale is huge, I'm not gonna lie, but much more focus is placed on Thanos' own character fighting with the Avengers, like hand-to-hand single combat, which I personally found really enjoyable. There's not many things to criticize about this movie. I think it's a great send off. It fulfills the purpose of something like this. But if we're gonna nitpick a little bit, I would have to say that, you know, because of the story and of its purpose, a lot of the other Avengers are, you know, doesn't get the screen time that they may or may not deserve. You could say like, oh well, these guys are gonna be in the next saga. Well, not necessarily. Like Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, you know, these characters may not come back in the next saga. Like they're not like Spider-Man or Captain Marvel, where you know they're gonna be in the next saga. Like Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, like these guys, you don't know. Like you don't know if they're gonna be back. I would have liked to seen a bit more of them in this movie, especially Scarlet Witch. I think she has so much potential as a character, and she was one of my favorite characters back in the comic book days and the animated series. The only real criticism I have on this point is Black Widow and the way they treated her character. I think she's been getting the shaft the whole time, man. Like, not just because she hasn't gotten her own movie yet, right? It's just the way that she's treated in this final movie really shows me that, you know, they don't really actually care about her and want to make her a big point. I mean, when you watch it, you're like, well, she has a lot of screen time. She serves a big purpose, but I just don't feel like she gets the respect in this movie that, you know, the other original Avengers do get. And plus, with the way they handle her, I just don't. We're never gonna get that Black Widow movie. So that's a bit sad, because I really like that character. I like Scarlett Johansson, the way she played that character, and I would have loved a standalone Black Widow movie over pretty much any of the Marvel movies recently. There's not much more I can say without spoiling anything, without going into the plot or, you know, the story, but just know that the story is super solid. It's simple, but it serves its purpose in sending off the original Avengers, you know, these guys who have given us 10 years of joy and excitement, and it's a fitting goodbye. And the end, guys, I was crying my eyes out. Like my whole like my whole face was like was wet, you know, like I just took a shower. And I'm glad that but I was always glad that the bit after the climax was long enough for me to reset myself, you know, wipe myself down so I don't go out looking like a freaking idiot. I never cried in any of the previous Marvel movies, and I think these tears are more of a accumulation of 10 years of gratitude, more than sadness of watching these guys go. So a final note, like I would have to say personally, I'm not very excited for the next saga. That's just because maybe I'm too old. Maybe I was too invested in these Avengers to really be able to go at it again, you know, to really get invested in a new set of heroes and to go on another 10-year journey. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready to do that. Maybe I will be later on, but right now I just think I just need a break from this universe, from these characters, from, you know, these movies. Or maybe I think it's because, to be honest, I haven't been a big fan of the recent Marvel movies. You know, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel. Personally, I don't like the politics that they're pushing in these movies. I think it has gotten in the way of storytelling, especially in Captain Marvel, less so in Black Panther and Spider-Man. I'm not really invested in these characters, and if they're going to be spearheading the next group of Avengers, then I don't know. Well, we will see, but right now I think everyone, after watching the movie, will need a long break. All right, guys, that's my review of Avengers. What did you think of the movie? Let me know. If you want me to go in more in-depth review critique of the actual story, let me know as well, and I will see you next time.